I am going to be doing a tutorial on how to rig a fluorocarbon leader into a hollow core spectra. And I'm using a Seaguar thread lock, which is a hollow core braid, and Seaguar pink label fluorocarbon. And this connection that I'm using is pretty cool because unlike a lot of other serving things, you don't have to have a separate serving thread to do this, so it makes a simpler thing. You need a jig to hold everything in place to keep the line tight. I just built this myself with a couple of clamps from Home Depot, some wood, about 20 bucks for the whole thing. You're going to need a bobbin, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and obviously a threading needle. This is a 60-pound leader, so I have a 60-pound Deho threading needle, which I've inserted the leader into. And I'm going to take my spectra here, but unlike where you normally insert the leader into the end of the spectra, for this knot we will be inserting it about 18 or 20 inches up from the end. So you basically just fan it apart, find a spot, stick the needle through it. You're not doing any damage to the spectra at all, and just start sliding it through. If it ends up, if the needle pops out like this, if it comes out, just back it up, start again, and line it back up. You haven't damaged it at all. These needles are blunt. They're not going to do any damage to the spectra. This is I think a 16 carrier, 16 strand spectra. So there's 16 strands for every that makes this up. Once you get it through, I only put it through a few inches for this example here. You pull the needle out and you pull it tight, and the leader should be all the way inside of the spectra. If it's not, just slide the spectra back to cover it. I'm using this for inshore fishing, maybe a foot or 2 feet of leader inside the spectra is fine. If you're fishing offshore, anything bigger, you could even go 3 or 4 feet. Once you have that, I'll clamp one end of my leader into one clamp, and I'll stretch it out and clamp the other side so that I have my working area right here in the middle. Okay, so a step ahead here. This is a bowstring serving bobbin. This is made to wrap string around a bow and arrows string, and I'm not using the cord that's on here. I'm actually just using this to hold the tag end. I kind of pinched it in there to give it some anchoring point, and I just wrapped it on there. And this is I got a thing on here that allows me to create some tension. So my first step is I'm going to wrap this up here for about 2 or 3 inches, and these are not tight spirals by any stretch of the imagination, just loosely going up. This is creating the base for what's going to be my wrap as I come back. So I am about as far as I want to go. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch my finger here to keep that in place, and I'm going to go back the other way over the knot that I had originally done. So basically, once I have it started going back, I can just continue this by moving the bobbin over, and it's going to create a very tight wrap all the way down my line here. It's kind of slow, but you really can't go wrong here. It's going to hold to itself as tightly as possible. And I've got quite a bit of tension on there, so it's kind of inconvenient to turn with your fingers, but about halfway there now. Yeah, without this tension bobbin, you wouldn't be able to do this knot because you wouldn't be able to create enough tightness on your line to get this the line or the spectra to pack down the way it does, and that's going to keep this serve from slipping at all. So almost there. You want to go all the way down until you cover get back to where the line goes into the spectra. You don't really need to go much past that, just a turn or two is fine. But you don't want any exposed leader material showing out of the end of your spectra. Okay, so I've gotten all the way down there, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out some line. I'm going to pinch this with my finger, I'm going to pull the rest of the slack out of this. And this is a little bit longer than I need. But I'm going to double this back up here. I'm going to do a 3-turn uni knot, which is not the easiest thing to do when you're trying to hold on to the thing with your hand, but I'm going to manage here. That's when it helps not to have hooves instead of hands. So once you have that 3-turn uni knot, you don't tighten it down, but what you do is you feed it back around. And what this does is you're actually unlooping it back onto the knot itself. This looks weird, but you will see here what's going to happen. So now that we've done that, we can pull this down and cinch it against this. And that loosened me up, but what I have now is I have a very tight and small knot. And I'm going to pull this. You can pull as tight as you want. That is not going to go anywhere. And then all you need to do is just trim the edge. You can turn it right up against the knot. You basically have a very seamless little knot there. And I have a tack glue, which I'm going to try not to dribble on the countertop because I'm in the kitchen here. Just put one drop right on the end of that. With your fingers, it'll tighten up. But there you have a served leader going into spectra, and that is about as minimal of a knot you can get. You don't need any serving thread, you don't need anything. That is rock solid.
Very nice, honey.